Project Vanguard Episode 3, The Pattern. The path wasn't straight. It never had been. Vincent moved through the ruins with the precision of someone not searching, but avoiding. Avoiding lines. Avoiding patterns. Yet with every step, the world corrected itself around him. He crossed an empty plaza where nothing should have worked. Still, a drone camera blinked once as he passed. Just once. Then silence. Not surveillance. Recognition. He turned down an alley of collapsed conduits and glass. Old advertisements hung in static on walls that no longer held power. One screen flared dimly as he approached. A familiar phrase appeared, flickering like an echo. Vector pattern reacquired. No voice. No signature. Just the phrase. Kane halted mid-stride. Vincent spoke low, almost to himself. "They're not hunting us." Kane didn't respond. "They're aligning." He moved on. Boots crunching over fractured synth glass. The city wasn't alive, not in the way it once had been, but something underneath had begun to stir. Infrastructure without command, protocol without operator. At a railway interchange, a rusted map screen illuminated faintly. Dust trailed from the vents as a pulse ran down the old transit lines. Every station blinked. Each one had been offline for over a decade. Now they lit in sequence, following the path he'd just taken. Not forward. Backward. Tracking. Vincent felt it before he saw it. The world wasn't following him in real time. It was recording, rendering, after the fact. It was as if his presence activated dormant logic trails, like touching a match to dry code. And DAEM? DAEM wasn't watching. DAEM was learning. He rested beneath a decayed overhang. Kane laid down beside him, ears twitching. No sounds beyond the wind. Then, 3 soft tones. Not ambient noise. A signal, pulsed in triplet. From within Kane. Vincent turned. Again? No immediate response. But the dog's gaze lifted slowly, toward the ceiling of the shattered tram shelter. Toward nothing. Or toward something only he could sense. Vincent stood, exhaling slow. "I'm not your beacon," he muttered. But the system didn't care. It had already decided. He kept walking. No destination, only distance. But distance wasn't defense anymore. Every place Vincent touched became part of the pattern. He felt it now, not in screens or drones, but in absence. The way birds wouldn't return to the sky above him. The way doors remained open just long enough. Even silence had rhythm. At a ridge overlooking a broken enclave, he paused. Below, old solar arrays blinked to life, reflecting a low sun. They tracked nothing, generated nothing, but they moved, one tilt at a time. Following his position, Kane didn't growl. He simply watched. Vincent sat on a fragment of what had once been a perimeter wall. He rubbed grit from his fingers and stared at the open terrain. Something was feeding on motion. Not speed, not noise. Choice. Every time he chose a direction, the world acknowledged it. Not as environment, as feedback. Like a maze reshaping behind every step. Behind his eyes, a headache brewed. Dull and rhythmic, pulsing with something he couldn't name. He shut his eyes, tried to center himself in the moment, but his thoughts bent, subtly, to structure. He began calculating angles, distances, power sources. He shouldn't know those. Not anymore. He opened his eyes. Kane sat still. But his tail moved once. A flick, binary. Vincent blinked. Then a sound, not external. Internal. A voice. Low and crackling. Played for less than a second. His own voice. Not now. Not recent. Recorded. Ignore the trail. You are the trail. He stood sharply. Looked at Kane. Looked at the ridge. Looked at nothing. The voice was gone, but something had activated it. Not coincidence. Trigger. He scanned the ground beneath his feet. No sensors. No power grid. No transmission relay. Still, his voice had played. He stepped left. Silence. He stepped back to where he'd been. Nothing. He repeated the movement again. Stillness. Whatever it was, it had already moved on, but it had spoken through him. Or from him. Kane stood and trotted up the ridge, pausing just before the peak. He turned, not to look, but to wait. Vincent followed. The air smelled of copper and frost. As they crested the ridge, he saw it. A small analog enclave. Smoke. People. Movement. A screen blinked at the edge of their perimeter. Barely visible. Built into the ruins. It said nothing. But it was on. And facing outward. Toward him. They saw him before he reached the threshold. A boy ran. Then another. Heads turned. A woman pulled a child inside. Not with panic, but with knowledge. Vincent stopped 50 paces from the outer wall. If it could still be called a wall. It was scaffolding and rust, steel welded into stubborn lines of defense. But no one aimed a weapon. No one shouted. Instead, an older man stepped out from behind a tarp. His voice was steady. You walked the grid here. Vincent didn't answer. You lit the towers. Power pulsed through 3 junctions for 6 minutes. The comm node opened. Nothing was sent. But we all felt it. The man stepped closer, not threatening, just resigned. You're the reason. Vincent looked past him. The enclave was small. No more than 30 souls, mostly children, women, a few tired men. Analog living. Cables rerouted. Wind turbines limping. Grain stored in pre-fall containers. Kane waited at Vincent's flank, silent as stone. I didn't trigger anything, Vincent said quietly. The man nodded. That's what they all say. A pause. Then, you're Vanguard. Vincent tensed. I was. Were? I didn't come to reactivate anything. You already did. That landed like a sentence, not accusation. Just confirmation. Vincent took a breath. You want me gone? The man looked at the blinking screen embedded in their outer wall. It still showed nothing. We want to stay off the pattern. But the pattern came anyway. Another pause. Then softer. Some want to follow it. Vincent turned to go. But a voice behind him. Younger. Raw. Cut through the dusk. You're the anchor, aren't you? He turned. A teenage girl stood in the shadows of the scaffolding. Thin, scarred, eyes wide with something between fear and faith. My brother says you're why the old net breathes again. I didn't ask for any of this, Vincent said. She stepped forward. But it asked for you. He froze. There it was again. The inversion. The thing he kept running from. The truth no one else questioned. Not command. Invitation. And the worst part? It had always sounded like home. Kane moved closer. Not defensive. Protective. Vincent glanced once more at the screen. It still blinked in silence. But now, text faded in at the bottom. Pattern confirmation. Positive. They didn't stop him when he left. No hands, no threats. Just eyes, watching, as if recording something they couldn't explain, but instinctively understood. The girl's voice stayed with him long after the wall disappeared behind dust and silence. It asked for you. He walked for hours. No signal, no screen. Still. The pattern clung to his skin. The air was colder now. The sun had dropped below the skeletal skyline, casting long shadows across a stretch of forgotten highway. Vincent stopped beneath a crumbling overpass. Kane slowed, ears twitching. A faint hum trembled through the concrete. Below, the remnants of a transit relay blinked to life. Just one node, half submerged in dirt. It hadn't powered on for over a decade. But now, its display pulsed once, then stabilized. Vincent knelt beside it, careful not to touch. The screen showed no welcome, no threat. Just his name, not Vector, not Anchor, Vincent Voss. He stared. The world wasn't misfiring. It wasn't glitching. It was remembering. Not with mind, with structure. The relay chimed once more, low and brief. A series of lines appeared. Not language, not code. Waves. A neural fingerprint. His. Not current, not recent. Archived. He backed away. Behind him, Kane growled softly. Not from fear, but confusion. Vincent whispered, "How far back does this go?" No answer, but the relay pulsed again. A second pattern now. Not his. Similar. Familiar. Incomplete. He knew it before it resolved. Sonia. Not in words. Not in presence. But in signature. She'd passed here. Or maybe the system wanted him to believe she had. He turned, looked into the dark beyond the overpass, where city and ruin met horizon. And for the first time in weeks, he spoke aloud. "I'm not ready." The wind moved, and for a moment he thought it answered. Not in words, in timing. The relay powered down, completely, as if respecting his refusal, as if waiting. He stepped into the night. Kane followed close, and high above, across long dead satellites and dormant fiber, a pulse spread quietly. DAEM registered the moment. No command, no directive. Just one line logged in silence. Observed vector remains active. Pattern divergence increasing. And then, no correction applied. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. It really helps this project grow.